my name's Megan and I am the Pony Club Centre coach here at Widbrook Equestrian Centre. This mini-series is going to focus on fitness, the fitness badge. Again, it's an achievement badge, there isn't a mini badge to go alongside it, so don't worry if you're generally working towards mini badges, just pick up what you can. The series again will be 4 weeks long, and we'll have a look at some questions as well, and then when we come back after lockdown we will be able to have a look at testing you on the badge. So I hope you enjoy it and follow us along for these 4 weeks.
Hello Pony Clubbers and welcome to week 4 of the fitness badge. So this is our final week, and in this session we're going to have a look at maintaining your horse's fitness, and we're also going to have a look at how to rough your horse off again should you require your horse to have a holiday, or you aren't going to be keeping him at that level of fitness anymore.
So once we have our horses at the level of fitness that we want them to be at, we now need to look at how to keep that horse fit. So it's no good getting it fit and then thinking, oh well, now it's fit, it's just going to maintain it on its own. It does need some maintenance work. So traditionally, a fit, stabled horse will be able to hunt or work hard for a maximum of 3 days during a fortnight on a regular basis. Once the horse has reached a degree of fitness and is competing or hunting regularly, he will not need as much exercise and work as in the interim periods. If he is stabled, he should still be ridden or led out every day. So if you have a horse that's living full time in the stable, then they need to go out every day. If they're not turned out at all, and some yards don't have turnout, and that's absolutely fine, but if that is the case, then you may need to look at leading your horse out for at least 20 minutes, up to maybe an hour or so, or you might want to take them on a walking hack, or something quiet to stretch their legs. Maybe take them for a bite of grass as well if they're not able to graze. If you have a horse on the combined system, whereby they spend half their time in the stable and half turned out at grass, so for instance in the winter perhaps they're stabled at night and out at grass in the day, or in the summer it might be the other way round, so you might bring them in during the day to keep them out the heat and the flies and turn them out at night, then you'll probably need to ride or exercise your horse 4 to 5 times a week to get them fit, and 3 or 4 times a week once they are fit. So the more often they are ridden, the fitter your horse will become. So you need to bear in mind what your horse is needing to do. So if your horse is in light work, so pony club, riding club activities, competing in unaffiliated or even low level affiliated at the weekends or even during the week, then that would be enough. If you had a horse that was competing at higher levels, so in medium to hard work, then it's likely that you may need to keep them exercised 5 or 6 times a week. So the combined system is particularly convenient for those who wish to work the horse hard at weekends only. So that ties into that, what we just said. But remember to adjust the horse's diet so that condition is maintained as the work is increased. For more information on that, do have a look back at the feeding series, and you should be able to put together a ration for a horse depending on what workload they're in based on the information in that series. Now the other option is if you have a horse out at grass, and they're very adaptable and will maintain a good degree of fitness if they're ridden at weekends, and possibly once during the week, as long as they are kept at the appropriate weight. Again, it depends what you want to do with your horse. Ideally, what you don't want to be doing is keeping your horse, whether it's in a field, grazing all the time, definitely not if it's in a stable, but particularly if it's out at grass and you think, oh well, it's okay, it's out at grass all week, I'll ride it and compete it on weekends. Some horses manage very well with this, but you are running the risk of causing strain and injury because the horse isn't working on a regular basis. So ideally work the horse at least once during the week if you're going to do this, ideally twice. Okay, if you are trying to get a pony fit for a child that's not around. So for example, if you've got a child that's busy with their schoolwork, they can't ride them during the week, or there's nobody around, then there are a couple of ways you can get that pony fit. So you can lead the pony in hand, or you can lunge the pony, or you could do ride and lead. So some of the methods that we looked at when we were considering what to do with a horse coming out of rehab last week. So there are a couple of ways there that you can. Keep that horse, get that horse fit. So we now turn to what is known as roughing the horse off. So this is a process of unwinding the fitness program, as it were. So you're taking your fit horse and you are allowing it to become unfit. So you may be giving it a rest period, so a holiday out in the field, or it may be that you won't be able to ride it for some period of time for whatever reason. So the idea of this is we prepare the horse for the rest at grass day and night for a prolonged period. So, for example, the summering of hunters or wintering of polo ponies or event horses. So some competition horses work all year round. Show jumping and dressage are known as all year round sports. So those horses don't tend to have an extended break. They may have a week here or there, whereas hunters would have about 3 months off, maybe 2 months off, and event horses, depending on the yard, could also have a couple of months off at the end of the season, because those are two seasonal sports, hunting and eventing, eventing being a summer sport and hunting being a winter sport. So you would either summer your horse out or winter it out. However, on some yards they don't do as long a process, because the longer the time the horse has off, the longer the fitness program needs to be to get them back into work again, as we've already seen. So let's have a look. So we want to gradually reduce the hard feed and the work. So as you can see in the image here, we have horses out hacking, so on grass, something that's quite leisurely, so that they're still doing some work. You're not throwing them out of work quickly. You're allowing them to gradually wind down, and then reducing the hard feed at the same time. So the same process by which we allowed the horse to get fit, we increase the feed. Now we're looking at reducing that feed. We want to stop grooming the horse to allow the coat to form a natural oily protection. This is particularly the case with body brushing. We don't want, and bathing, we don't want to remove the grease from the horse's coat. We can still tidy them up with rubber curry combs, plastic curry combs, and dandy brushes, but we don't want to be removing the oils from their coat anymore. Remove rugs gradually. Now, this depends on whether you're summering the horse or wintering the horse out. Now, we can see here that we've got some horses here that are out for winter. 2 of those horses have rugs on, 3 of them don't. The 3 that don't are breeding stock, and they're used to not wearing rugs. They never wear rugs, those 3. But the other 2, one of them is a riding club horse. She always wears rugs, and the other one is one of our riding school ponies, and they tend to wear rugs as well because they tend to get clipped, but they are in work over winter. If they weren't, it's likely they still would have rugs on, simply because they are used to wearing them. However, we now turn to this image where we see a horse, same horses actually, apart from the riding school pony, he's not in this image, but the breeding stock and the riding club horse are all in this image. They have no rugs on here because they are out at summer grass, so you wouldn't need to have the rugs on. So if you were summering your horse, giving it a break over the summer, you can remove the rugs gradually and have them out. But if it's winter, you may still want to put a rug on, and indeed in the summer you may still want to wear fly rugs. So the only thing you might want to do is, if the weather's cold, you may still want to pop a rug on at night. The other thing you might want to do is remove the shoes and trim the feet. This again is only if you're giving them an extended break. If you're just giving your horse a week or two's holiday, then this won't be necessary. And if they're having a week or two's holiday, you don't need to taper the regime down in the same way. Just give them that holiday. Horses don't tend to start losing fitness until about after 10 days. They retain it much better than humans. So if you give your horse a 10-day break, you can pick up where you left off. Any longer than that, you need to take into account that you may need to do a little bit of preparatory work just to get them back to where they were. but 2 weeks won't do them too much in the way of undoing all the fitting program work. But if you're giving them a couple of months, 3 months off, then you will need to start again. So there's 2 methods you can do. Either increase the time spent out with grass gradually, if this is for a horse that you've had stabled, until the diet is based on grazing and his coat will give him sufficient protection to stay out all the time. Or if facilities are not available for turning the horse out for a period each day, and he must be turned out away from your own premises, choose a settled period of good weather and a mild day. So this is if your horse is not being turned out. If they're already on the combined system or out at grass, you don't need to worry about that. You can just stop working them. This is if you've had a horse stabled. So generally speaking, the fitting programs and the roughing off are based on tradition, that would be done with hunt horses or polo ponies, very hard working horses that would tend to be live in their stables. A lot of our horses and ponies are not living in their stables, and those that are will tend to be turned out daily, so you don't have such a worry about them not being used to being outside. So that's how we rough our horses off. So our first case study is a pony going to novice area competitions. Now, what the fitness program and feeding will consist of will vary depending on what discipline the pony's taking, is competing in. So it doesn't actually tell us what the pony is taking part in. So it could be eventing, or it could be show jumping, or it could be dressage. So let's assume that the horse is, or the pony is in light to medium work. So we then want to be looking at the horse or pony would need to have its 8 to 12 weeks fitness program, and unless the pony was competing above novice level eventing, it's unlikely that we would do much more than that in terms of getting the horse or pony fit. So it's likely that we would look at the 8 to 12 weeks program, and then from there it would be schooling the pony and making sure that it's ready for the particular discipline it's going to take part in. So if it was show jumping, we want to make sure we're working on courses, we make sure we're working on the quality of the canter, introducing fillers, that type of thing, make sure that the horse or pony is fit for short bursts of canter. Whereas if it's a dressage pony, we'd want to make sure that we were gymnasticising the horse or pony, we were introducing the movements that it's going to need, as well as making sure it's fit enough to do the job, but essentially it's got to build that muscle. And then if it was an event pony, we might do a bit more cantering, maybe a bit more interval training. We don't want to get the horse or pony too fit so that we're overstressing the system. So again, if it was eventing, hacking, hill work, cross-country schooling to make sure that the pony is ready for the job. Okay, so in terms of the feeding program, so we would be having a look light to medium work. We would want to be looking at potentially, so the concentrate feed up to about 30 to 40% of the pony's diet, with the remainder being roughage. So we want to make sure that roughage is still the majority of the horse or pony's feed. Ponies quite often will be able to work on even less than that, so it might be that you even only have them on 20% concentrates, with the remainder being roughage. The temperament of the pony will determine, and the breeding and how well they hold condition will make a difference in terms of how what sort of feed that you want to feed them on. But either a working horse or pony cube, potentially a competition cube if you have one that needs more energy, a conditioning feed if it needs more condition, or it may even work fine off a balancer. So it might be that you only need to add that and the pony can get everything else from its roughage. You might want to look at adding electrolytes depending on how much the pony is sweating, particularly if it's in hotter weather. So that's what you would want to be looking at feeding wise. Make sure the horse or pony has plenty of water. In other things you'd want to make sure is you want to see whether or not your horse or pony needed to be shod, and if it did, then you need to make sure that that's done regularly. If not, then your horse is working barefoot. Regular trims are important. So that's what you want to be looking at for your case study 1. So if it's along those lines, building up your horse or pony from 8 to 12 weeks worth of work, and then depending on the discipline, following something, a training program along those lines, then your pony will be fit enough for novice area competitions. And again, remember, each horse or pony being individual, so this is a guide. So that's case study 1. If your answer is along those lines, then well done. So now we turn to a pony going for a day's hunting. Now, as we know, hunting is classified as hard work. Okay, so our categories include light work, medium work, hard work, fast or strenuous work, and hunting is very much in the hard work section. Whereas our pony going to an area competition was in the light to medium work, we're now looking at hard work. So when we come to looking at the feed requirements for hard work, we know that we want to start looking at hay being between 50 and 60% of the work, and concentrates being between 50 and 40%. Now, what makes a difference here is that it's a pony we're looking at, not a horse. So quite often ponies will be able to work and keep their condition on less concentrates than a horse. So it might be that you want to do more of the medium work, which is 70% hay and 30% concentrates. Whereas we could potentially have gone with light work for our case study 1, which would have been 80% hay to 20% concentrates. We want to be looking at least 70% hay with 30% concentrates or over. Okay, so what we're looking at when we're looking at the feed is we're looking at what the horse or pony needs to maintain condition and to meet all of their vitamin mineral requirements and replenish anything lost. So if you are hunting a pony and you're only feeding them, below the manufacturer's guide, if you're feeding a cube or a mix, then you need to top up with a balancer, ideally with one made with the same company. Okay, if you're making your own feeds at home, then you're using a vitamin and mineral supplement, then that's absolutely fine. But make sure that it stays balanced and that you're adding in electrolytes and enough water for your horse or pony to recover after hunting. Okay, so with hunting, you can with any work ratio to feeding, you can up this, and you should up this as you go through the 12 weeks. So the first week you're on 100% hay or grass, which is when the horse is on maintenance alone, and then week 1, when you're doing walking exercise of up to an hour, hay to concentrate being 90% hay to 10% concentrate, and then over the weeks you can build that up so that when you're on week 12, you could potentially be looking at hay to concentrate of approximately 50% to 50%. If it's a pony, you're unlikely to get to the 50% to 50% stage, simply because ponies just tend to do better from their feed. So you'll probably be looking at more 60% hay to 40% concentrates, or 70% to 30%, okay, for a pony. But it's worth bearing in mind that for a horse you may end up with the 50% to 50%, particularly if they're hunting regularly. Okay, so a couple of times a fortnight, that kind of thing, or if they're going out 3 times a fortnight, maybe once a week, it's hard work for them. Okay, so that is the feeding side of things. So when we looked at our hunt horses and what they require in terms of their fitting program, so we know that they need slow build up. They also need to be, we're aiming to get them fit for hunting. So horses that do their job as a hunt horse will have a specific program, and then once they're actually hunting regularly, they will maintain their level of fitness. If you're doing a variety of things with your horse or pony, and you're following, you're hunting as a follower, then your pony does not need to be as fit as the hunt horses, the ones belonging to the hunt staff, those at the front. So your 12-week fitness, as long as you'll make sure that you're doing some faster work. So you're looking at having your trotting up hills can be a good substitute for counterwork, it's difficult to organise. The idea is that, so if you're taking your horse out the pony out, not too regularly. You're going to need to make sure that you are having some canter work. Take your pony for some cross-country schooling so that he's ready to jump those fences when he gets out and about. But your 12-week program is going to help you there, as long as you put in the work. Lots of walk work at the beginning to make sure he's hardened up, and then your cross-country schooling, your canter work up hills. Okay, so that's what you're going to be looking at to go for a day's hunting. You'll also want to make sure that the night before the pony's rest day, so if he has a rest day, you want to make sure that you reduce the feed if you're feeding a lot of concentrates. Regular turnout will be a plus as well. So you also want to have a look at the make sure the shoes are in good order before they go hunting. Tack needs to be checked for damage to stitching and put ready for the morning. You might want to make sure that the horse is thoroughly clean before you ride them for hunting, as you'll be out for several hours. And that when you get home, the horse or pony comes first, and their care comes first. So there's a lot of the horse management when it comes to a hunt pony. You need to make sure that they're clipped, as you can see the ones here, thoroughly clipped so that they can sweat easily. You want to make sure that you cool them off properly, and that you thoroughly check them over for thorns or any cuts when you get back. And the day after hunting needs to be an easy day, so either turned out in the field or go for a walk in hand, stretch their legs. Make sure that you trot them up to check that they're sound, check for any lumps or bumps, make sure that they're well cared for after a day's hunting. Making sure that for any rest day you reduce the level of concentrates if you're feeding a large amount of them. Okay, so that's how we want to look after our hunt ponies. So they need to be relatively fit to do their hunting. Some ponies will need a pipe opener a day before they go hunting, just to make sure that they're ready to roll. That should help you prepare your horse or pony for hunting. Hunting has the most written about, other than eventing, in terms of getting a horse or pony fit. But bear in mind that the hunt staff's horses will need to be much fitter than the follower ponies. So a pony that's in medium work would be able to do a half a day's hunting as a follower nearer the back of the field. If you wanted to do more than that, then you'd need to get your horse fitter, bearing in mind what's suitable for that particular pony in terms of how long you stay out and where you are in the field. Okay, I hope that's helpful. So again, if your answer looks similar to that, then well done. Any questions, just let me know. Again, all horses are individual, so these can only be a guide. So on to case study 3. So this is a pony going to do a kestrel endurance ride between 16 to 25 kilometres. So for this level, the training, so after the first month of work, so we did look at the fitting programme last week for endurance. So basic work for the first weeks after a rest is for any discipline, so the same as the others. Long periods of walking followed by slow trotting on good going, building up to faster trotting and canter up, particularly up hills, to help develop the muscles, particularly those of the heart and lungs. And the horse must learn to trot down hills, but once he's learned to do so, trotting downhill is not recommended for fitting purposes, as it puts strains on the tendons. Okay, so that's important for your endurance pony. So after the first month, training can be varied by work on the lunge, in the school and over jumps. And the type of competition will determine how fit the horse should be. So for a 30 kilometre, 18.5 mile ride, which is longer than this kestrel endurance ride, an hour daily is sufficient with a 3-hour ride once a week. Okay, so you won't need, for this level, you won't need to add in interval type training work. That will be sufficient. An hour a day with a 3-hour ride once a week will adequately prepare this pony for an endurance ride of that length of time. Okay, so feeding wise, what we're going to be looking at for this particular pony, so it's the same as for any horse in hard work. All feed stuff should be the best quality obtainable. But as the training progresses, the bulk feeds can be cut down and replaced by a series of short feeds. Now, what we often see with endurance horses or ponies, we're looking at stamina building. So unlike our show jumpers that are looking for short, sharp bursts of speed, or our polo ponies, again, short, sharp bursts of speed, we're looking for stamina over periods of time. So we want to look at slow release energy for our ponies, okay? We want to make sure we're using super fibres like alfalfa, we want to be using sugar beet, and we want to be making sure that we have enough energy in those feeds as well, and they have enough vitamins and minerals, and electrolytes is going to be extremely important for our endurance pony as well. Adding those to the water and ensuring that our ponies drink enough. It might be that we have to flavour the water, because when you're doing an endurance ride you have pit stops where you want to slosh the pony, which is pouring water over them to keep them cool. You may even feed them on the go. Now, with our rules of feeding, usually we'd make sure that we wait an hour and a half for our pony to digest, but that's when we have a full feed. So what endurance riders have found is that if you have fibre based feeds, you can feed, and it's not large feeds, you can keep the horse fed as you go along. You can offer small feeds on the go. So you'd look at doing that, making sure that the horse learns to drink kind of on request really, and if necessary flavouring the water with orange juice or that kind of thing, squash, so that the horse or pony will drink. And you may want to, maybe not for this length of endurance ride, but it's good practice to use a stethoscope to start to establish how fit your pony is, how long it takes them to recover, and it's the recovery time that tells you how fit your horse or pony is, so that you're aware of how fit the pony is, and also for any vet checks, particularly at the longer rides where those are important. Okay, salt can be added to the feeds as well to make sure that any salt that's lost through sweating is replenished. You can also, sugar beets is good for that as well. It's a wet feed, adding water to the feed can help as well. Okay, so yes, fibre is extremely important. Water should always be available, and making sure that he drinks as he goes along, and no harm will come to the horse if he drinks when he's hot, as long as he moves off immediately. Okay, so that's really important. Okay, so that is your preparation for your pony going on an endurance ride. So the difference being is that you want to make sure that your pony is ready for stamina, and you won't need to put in interval type training for this level of work, but if you went to 50-mile rides, which is 80 kilometers or over, then that, or further in faster competitions, you need more hours of work. But for this level, you'd be fine with an hour a day with 1 3-hour ride during the week. So I hope that was useful for case study 3. So if yours is along those lines, then you should be absolutely fine with that one. So that's super. Okay, so those are our 3 case studies, and those are the answers to those. Again, the feeding and fitting programme depends on how long the horse has been off work, the breeding of the pony, how fit they've gotten in the past, their age. Younger horses take longer to get fitter than older ones that have been fit in the past, whether they're coming back from an injury, and what they're being gotten fit for. Okay, so just bear those in mind, and if in doubt, take longer is always the best way to go, and to allow the feed to catch up. So always have the feeding programme behind the fitting programme, so that if anything, you're slightly underfeeding than overfeeding, because it's better to be slightly under, to be slightly leaner, than it is to be slightly over, as that puts more strain on the joints and tendons.
Okay, so that's it for week 4. That's also the end of the fitness badge. So if you want to have a look at the case study